Believe me when I say we have a difficult time ahead of us. But if we are to be prepared for it, we must first shed our fear of it. I stand here without fear because I remember that I am here not because of the path that lies before me, but because of the path that lies behind me. I remember that for 100 years we have fought these machines. And after a century of war, I remember that which matters most. We are still here! Tonight, let us make them remember we are not afraid!
From Occupy the Land, occupytheland.org. We're finally on the land. We got 18 acres that out in the west desert, west of Phoenix, about 60 miles.
Oh, 60 miles, yeah.
Yeah, so it's like an hour to get in the town and do our big box shopping and so on. But there's a lot of video that Justin is going to edit for us to get an introduction to what we're doing. And you'll see what the plan was. But the plan mainly was to get access out here. There was trails. And Donna, she's a real estate agent, and she went looking for land. We've been looking at hundreds of places. We've looked all over the state, around the valley, and so on. And she finally made it out here. And her first impression, she knew I had to see it. So what was your experience when you got out here?
Well, we have been looking for land for years in the rural areas around the Phoenix metropolitan area because we wanted to be close to family. And for years we looked, and the prices were not good, or we were looking for something very specific for what we had in mind and for building a homestead. And so when I knew about this piece of land for a while, but it was so remote that I did attempt to come one time, but I just turned back because it was too treacherous. So when I was getting frustrated, I just thought, well, I'll just go check it out. I had a different car that was 4-wheel drive, so I made it out here, and I absolutely loved it. It was relatively flat, but with a very gentle slope, with a couple of gentle washes through it, and not in a floodplain. And it's got mountain views, and it is very remote, but it feels like there's life here. So when I came, I fell in love with it. I actually just walked it for a couple of hours. I was out here, and then I decided whether I should tell Ernie or not, because I knew he would love it, and I was not gonna look forward to that drive all the time. But he loved it as well. He came out, and it was exactly what we needed. So we moved forward with the purchase. And so here we are now, finally in December of 2024. We're on the land. We've moved our bus here, and so now we can really get started. We did a lot of prep work, but now we can really get started.
It was it's December 3rd now.
Yes,
I think we got on Saturday, November 30th. We made it in November,
right.
But we had purchased it April.
It was in the early March.
So we got it. And it was just desert out in the middle of. And the one thing that we knew, we had to have road, and to be able to bring the bus in. And you'll see pictures of that. But this was open range. Well, it still is open range for cattle, and that's why it even has trails. But private land out here. It was for sale. We got a good deal on it because it was so remote. But I knew that we had to have road to bring the bus in. The bus was not going to make it. And so it's probably it's almost 4 miles of road. Well, that was 120 billion degrees, and people that have been following us, saw that I had, it was like 118 every day for a long time.
Air-conditioned cab, come on.
I had to get out to get in the truck to pull the trailer with sand. So the thing is that the trails have become washes, over decades. I mean, this is, you'll see on some of the photos, you'll see little buildings and so on. That was from 40s, 50s, a long time ago. That ranch hands would come out here in the winter and rustle the cattle, and then they would take them down. About a mile away is where the cowboys are in a roundup, and then they take them up north for the summer. Well, this was exactly what I wanted. I needed a slight topography from one corner to the other corner is a drop of only 10 feet. So it allows me to control the water, and we can have it soak into the ground. We have an auger. You'll see a lot of us, just poking holes into the clay, and then we do check dams on the washes. So if we ever get a monsoon again,
yeah, it's not rained since we purchased the property. Not one drought.
I mean, it is, it's desert, but when it does, it will, and it gave me time to get things ready. And we were ready for the monsoon, barely, and then it didn't rain. So I'm like, okay, so I get more done. But we do need the rain. There's a lot of plans we have for the water, and it'll rain someday. I mean, it always does. But when it does, the sheeting that happens, it flows off of the clay into these small washes, and then it goes off the property. Well, we have to stop it so that it penetrates the ground. Little check dams. When we make these augerings into the soil, it'll charge. We back it up, make it a few inches deep, and it will charge the clay, and it will hold all that water so we can plant trees. So this is what the plan is, and why I needed a slight topography. I didn't want it real rough or canyons or any of that kind of stuff. I just need, and it's 18 acres. Now we're going to develop probably about half of that, and the rest of it for our family and so on. We put it in the family trust. This is for 4 kids and 12 grandkids. They do whatever they want. Well, they're starting to come out and take a look and like, ooh. And, my daughter and her family and my son-in-law, man, he was having fun with the tractor. So get the kids out here and they see a pile of dirt and they'll just drop down and start digging. I mean, it's going to be awesome. But what we had to do is we had to do the roads. This was months with this tractor, and it has a back blade that we pull and carve, top and tilt, and so I could carve the desert into what I needed. And then we had all that sand that was on the wash roads that was 12, 16 inches deep in a lot of places, and it took me months, hundreds of loads of sand and gravel to put to where it's not moon dust, you can just sink down in, so that we could bring the bus in. And when we came in, it was how many miles from the highway up there to get? It's at least
from the highway, probably 4 miles, 5 miles from the highway on the dusty dirt road.
So this is about half of that one. I didn't have to totally do, but there's a north and a south entrance in here, and from the north entrance is the one that the bus was going to make it. When we brought it in Saturday, you'll see a video, just a hyperlapse of we just left our friends Bob, who were like 25 miles away where we were staying, his good friend that has out in the desert, but he's coming downtown. We had to go another 25 miles on the other side of the next valley to get away. We see the glow of the Phoenix in the distance, and then a little bit of glow quartzite to the west in a small town, but it's Milky Way every night. I mean, it's just beautiful out here, and the sunsets are awesome over the mountain you see behind us, and it's just, we're going to be kind of clandestine exactly where we're at. I mean, people are going to figure it out, but we're limited in what we're willing to share, because we want to get prepared for the eventual battle, if the man ever finds us and comes out and wants to play. But we got ideas. It really became important to me when, it has been for decades, we've been wanting to do this. But when you got Klaus Schwab and the World Economic Forum saying you'll own nothing and here's your happy shot, this is what we knew they were talking about. They don't want you self-sufficient. They don't want you being able to grow your own food, have your own water, raise your own children, build your own home. This is, gives you a little bit too much independence. So what we had done is we wanted to be able to control the water. With 18 acres, we get like 7 inches a year, but it usually comes all at one time. And, just 18 acres, if we just contain the water that falls on our property, if we could store it, which we've done, and you'll see a lot, the earthworks and waterworks for that 1 acre foot that we can retain is 320-something thousand gallons of water. So we have access to water nearby, neighbor, friends, even farmers out there say, yeah, you can fill up your thing. We don't care. But the main thing is we want to be self-sufficient on the captured rainwater that we do directly and indirectly that comes in the flow from the monsoon. We can capture that. So that is, we could do a well, but the well could be anywhere from $50,000 to $70,000 for what we want to do. And that's a possibility. We got a good deal on the land. We bought the tractor. We put everything into this, and we still have some resources. So, if silver and crypto keep going up, we'll be okay. But the well is a possibility, and we may do it. But I really want to try. We don't have that much need for water. We've been living in the bus on couple 100 gallons of water a month. I mean, we're fine. But if we're going to do any animal husbandry, chickens, any other animals, and certainly growing gardens, and the big reason we want to retain the water is so that we can plant trees. And that's already been planned, but I needed infrastructure. And if you look at the aerials that Justin will put up, you'll see I've been busy. But it's not just carving it out. It's covering it with sand, like a couple of inches, 3, 4, 5, 6 inches of sand and gravel. That I got plenty of that. And then we're going to be doing as we're digging the sand dam, the pond that'll be filled with sand. You won't even see the water. And then we have a tank in the bottom of it that will accumulate it and pump it from that, and then we'll filter and so on. But the main thing is that we're going to rely on God's good graces. We want to do that first. And then if we have to, we'll get the well. But we don't need it for a while, but we needed to plan for it. And we needed to put a lot of sand and it kind of organically grew to where, this road was because it went to where we wanted to go. And this one was bypassing a lot of the wash. And this area, fortunately, where we did the clearing is about in the center of the property. So this is something we're going to take you on this ride. It's going to be what we're doing and not what you should be doing. This is what we're doing. And we're going to be doing a lot of experimenting. We've watched 15 gazillion, YouTube channels and so on. And on Occupy the Land, we put an area for the 6 or 7, projects of homesteading, a lot of them in Arizona, that were inspiring to us for different reasons. One, it's just, wheelbarrow, number 10 can and filling bags. I mean, and then there's earth bags that's done with a family and their 4 children. And then you have rain catching, all kinds of different stuff. Well, what we knew from experiencing going to these workshops and helping and so on, it's a lot of manual labor. So I go, nope, need a tractor. So we did the tractor and make this possible. And we have mixing buckets for the concrete. We have, the back dragging, different kind of buckets. For trenching a backhoe, we got it. So I don't have any excuses. Then we started accumulating things like aluminum posts and, that were donated or got a cheap price, and you're on OfferUp, Facebook, Marketplace, Craigslist, whatever, to get a bunch of stuff. And there's a lot of things out there. And if you're patient and you take your time and you got kind of an overall vision, there's a lot of cool things that you can do. Well, now we're on the land. It's like 45 minutes for us to get out here from where we were. We were way out here staying with our friend. But it is... Now that we're on the land, we wake up and boom, here we go. It's just after 8 o'clock in the morning, and it's what, 56?
It's 52, and it's going to be in the mid-70s
for
at least the next 10 days, and in about high 40s at night. So it's perfect working temperature and sleeping temperature. But we're hoping for rain, looking for a long-range forecast where we could at least get a few drops or something, so we could tamp down the dust out here. Yeah.
This is. We're really enjoying it coming out here. This summer, Donna took a trip, in the middle of summer when it was 118, go help her mother, needed help. And then she traveled with our oldest daughter and her family around the northern part of the country. And then I went to Washington State. We have friends and supporters, and we went and met up there, and then we came back. And then she was once I did the road, we had all the growth that was going over that would scratch the bus and so on getting in. So that was
a month's worth of trimming the alleyway. Well, not really alleyways, but
the
roads, the washes and stuff to get back here. So we have a huge pile of brush that will eventually put wood chips. We'll chip it up and do wood chips on that. So.
Yeah, and some of there's a lot of stuff
so
that
we'll
be showing you. But it was the solar array we put up, so we got power right off the bat. We put up a third of our solar panels that we have for the main home, but we put them up so that we're just using part of it. It's a couple of thousand watts of power. We go in 100% every night on our bus.
Almost. Almost.
Well, it depends.
80 to 90, 100%. Yeah, that's pretty good without using a generator.
Yeah. No. Well, we only have half of what we're putting up.
Right.
I got to connect some more wires and so on, and combiner box of blah blah blah. So it'll double what we have already. So this is awesome. This is where we wanted to be. And the Love Bus is a comfortable place for us, has been for how many years?
4.5 years.
Yeah, we left in
May of 2020
on the Love Bus Liberty Tour, against mandates of the vaccine and all that. We traveled the country doing sign everywhere, a sign, our activism that we were doing for that. And it's our time now. And this is our answer to everything. Occupy the land. This is what this whole thing is all about. From the beginning of the country, Thomas Jefferson was the yeoman farmer. We have people that are self-sustained Americans. Well, that's what we're doing. And we're going to be sharing this with you guys. We're going to show you all the stuff that as we're doing it, as we're learning, because we're experienced with a lot of different ways to use the material that we have. It's going to be mostly masonry. It's going to be concrete, Portland cement, aircrete, earth bags, where the cost is just Portland. We have the material here. That was one of the reasons that we wanted this kind of setting, is that the sand, the gravel, the rocks, we don't have a lot of big rocks. We got to go a couple of miles to go get rocks.
Those, yeah.
But I don't really, it's going to be masonry. And if you look at our vision, Sean Holman, our architect and good friend in San Diego, has been helping us with all the planning and so on, and the site positioning of everything and getting the sun just right and the views. And Donna likes this vista that's over here, and I like the mountains back here, so we're both going to get what we want, I guarantee it. So this is just an introductory of we're on the land. Things are going to start going fast. We're going to start doing more documentation now. But videotaping and it gets in the way of work. And we had a timeline. We had to get rocking and rolling and whatnot so that we could get to the actual build now while it's nice. And it will be nice until end of May. It'll start getting warm. But I did it in the freaking summer. And now that we have all the power that we need for cooling, so we can be fine. But I'm hoping to build the first of the domes for the complex that we have. The first home, well, first is going to be workshops. Everybody just get over that. You got to have a workshop first. So we're doing that. Then we'll bring you on that. And then we'll do the first dome for living. But we want to build some of the outbuildings, the utility
and the
room.
fencing, because we have cattle that roam out here. And as you know, they can ruin just about anything.
They've been staying away.
Yeah, we heard them this morning, just as we started to film. We could hear them mooing down the road. But yeah, they're out here. We don't show themselves too much, but they are out here.
Yeah, you see their tracks everywhere. And animal tracks everywhere. We're going to be putting up game cameras so you can see. And we have night vision cameras. It's going to be beautiful. And we're going to take you on the ride. We just wanted you to know there was months of work went in just so we could get to this point. Now it's the fun part.
Yep.
Fun part.
Yep.
Stay for the fun. Peace. Well, I'm standing on the southwest corner of the property. That's what this PVC is here. And that is the end of the trail. That tree is, this is it, as far as it goes. There's some little buildings out here. They're just stone and masonry, stacked up, that have been for decades. I mean, you don't see any out here, but that's why there's a road out here. It's open range for cattle, and it still is. But the cowboys would stay out here just for the winter and be able to rustle the cattle or wrangle them or whatever they do. And they're just about ready, so it's starting to get hot. They're going to start taking them up north. So there's going to be a cattle drive that's going on right about now. Now, this trail, it was just a rutted, washed trail, but who will build the roads? Me. So I spent 4 months over last summer just getting the roads carved and the gravel put up, and this is the south side of the property, and this is the edge of the property, and it goes way down there. And you'll see that there's halfway mark is that one PVC, and then there's another one down there. That's the corner of the property. Now, between the washes, the water flows this way. That is a runway. I wanted to have be able to at least land an ultralight. It's over 1,000 feet, so you can do a small airplane, and my son's a pilot, so he can come out and hang if he wants. But the center of the property is right about where that big dome is. Now, this is, I have on the other side of the runway over here, I haven't really touched. I was leaving that alone. That's future building, family and stuff. But back here is what we're working on. Now, what we did is, because this is 10 feet higher than the far corner back there, and it's relatively flat, and it's found when it rains and it starts to sheet, it finds the lower areas and goes down in the washes. Now, what we did is we took all this to the west of the runway here, is we augered in about every 15 feet or so holes. Now, on the back of the tractor, we have an auger that we can attach, and we do these holes. Now, the reason is these go about 5-6 feet down, and when we do check dams on the washes, I'll walk down one of them with you and you can see what's up. You have all this will sheet, and then it doesn't get very deep, and it just runs off into these washes because it does this. The surface clay, you see these, it just does that, and it creates a little barrier, and it just sheets off and goes into the washes. So what we wanted to do was be able to back it up so that this turns into like acres of a lake, about 8 inches deep, and then it goes into these holes here. Now, we haven't finished it, but we showed that it worked. I need to flatten out the tractor and take the little mounds off so that we can get more water that'll go down in there. You have to do that. But when it did flood, we had one finally in a year, and when it did, it just charged all this ground. So that's why you see all these holes everywhere, is so that we can have fruit trees. We want to be able to saturate this soil, this clay. When you back up the water and you hold it, what happens is that it only moves through the clay about 1 foot every 24 hours. So if I put them, about, 10, 20 feet apart, what happens is you get like a couple of weeks in the monsoons where it stays wet here and it rains quite a bit, and I can keep a lake going here. 1 year, and I'll saturate this soil, and we can start planting fruit trees. That is the plan. So that's what we're working on. Now, this area is where the orchards will go. We have a lot of planting that we're planning, and this is kind of the how that we're going to make use of the land and the water that we get during the monsoons, of which there's like a summer monsoon that comes from July to August, September, around in there. It's like 6 weeks of oh my God. And then in the winter, early spring, late winter, you'll get a lot of rain too. Now, this last year there hardly was any. But when we did, it worked. So you can see, I just, bunch of holes. So that's what the plan was for this. This will be the agricultural area up here. And then the water eventually does drain all the way down to the far corner of the property where we're doing a sand dam. Now what that is just imagine a pond that's filled with sand. Sand displaces about 2/3 of what you got a liter water bottle. You fill it with sand and then saturate it with water. About 1/3 of the volume is water. So that means a 6 foot, 1 acre deep thing, and I fill it up. That means I get 2 feet of water. 2 acre feet is over, gosh, I think 326,000 gallons is 1 acre foot. So 2 of those is, that'd be over 700,000 gallons. So I will be fine. But I wanted to do the man-made aquifer as opposed to a well if I could, because to do well, anybody that will do a well, they're so afraid of the government that they have to get permits, and your property's got a push pin in it. I just wanted to kind of be off of the man's grid. Now here is a good example. When it sheets out here, it starts to create little washes, and it goes into this main wash. And that's what we're trying to prevent as much as possible, and have it soak into the ground. But then it will saturate, and then it'll start doing the monsoons. It's going to go and make its way down to the river, which is way down yonder. And usually it's dry, but when it flows, it'd be a flowing. So this is the wash that I just took the box blade on the back of the tractor, and I would kind of trim it up here, keep it to where it's wide so it doesn't cut into it as much, and we can direct the draining, which I didn't change anything because then you run into problems, but we just kind of helped it along here. Now it's going to go around this bend. I'm going in and out with the tractor doing stuff, so I got to clean it up a little bit. But it hits these check dams that we constructed out of earth bags. Now, earth bags are just a tube on a roll. I got 10 rolls of 500 meters each. So that's 5 kilometers of that. I build 50 gazillion houses out of this stuff. So what we did is we just fill it with this soil, the same soil right here, because it's about 30% clay with sand and gravel. You can see all my gravel and everything. I can just trommel, screen it out, and get whatever I want, which is what we've been doing. But a lot of the material that we get is already separated. It was separated by, the road, time, pressure, flow, and different areas in the desert, along the sides of the road that had to take a lot of the excess from anyway to be able to travel it, who'll build the roads. And at least 150 loads on our dump trailer has gone on all our road system here, so you don't sink down into the moon dust. Now the height of that stake, we do the laser out here and get it all, and it's about, an inch or two below the earth bag. That is the height that I need for it to start to fill all of this area up here. And that's a very slight topography, and by getting it up to that high, then it'll flood those auger holes that we have, and then it continues on, it overflows here, and it'll go across the road, and then it continues down the washes. This one I haven't dressed because didn't need to, so let it go. Now, where we have the home site, it was going to be a lot of different areas, and we finally decided, and when Donna said, yeah, I think I want it right there, boom, done. The day we prepped it, and it's going there. So that's where the home site, what you see, the complex on the front of occupytheland.org, this is what the area that we're going to be building that. Now, on the other side over there is where the sand dam is. It's an acre. It's going to go down at least 6-8 feet. We put in the far corner a water tank, and then all the water that's excess during the monsoons will be retained there. And then, but you won't see the water. It'll be eventually, it'll be just gravel. It'll be sand, and you don't see it. And it'll be over 500,000 gallons in there for us to use year round. Now, Donna and I, just for our living, we have a 100-gallon or 90-something gallon tank on the bus that we only fill that up, once every 2 weeks. So we go through a couple 100 gallons just for us, like showers and cooking and drinking and whatever. We don't use that much water. We've been in that almost 5 years, and we really got it down. Now, when she does laundry, or we want to water anything or plants or something, well, it really goes up then. So, there's that. Now you can see that the soil here is very rocky. It's clay, it's rock, it's sand, and if you can process that, you got all your material here, which is what I do. That's one of the reasons why we wanted to have this place, is that we wanted to be able to source our own material here, because it was going to be like $600 just for the dump truck to make it out here. Not even counting the material. So it's like, I think I'll decline and do it myself. Now it's May, middle of May. It's Mother's Day. Was it 11th, I think? And this is when the spring really starts. You start hearing a bunch of bees. There's desert bees out here. They're just working. And all the plants start to blossom and go green. The desert is a lot greener, the Sonoran Desert, a lot more than people think. And it's just that the water is sporadic, and you only you save it all during the monsoon, then you got water. But you don't during those, couple of months out of the year, then you don't. So, and then when it does, things just grow. You get weeds and, growth and grass. There's all kinds of grasses and stuff around here that start to go up. And, here you can see some of the, dead grasses from last year. But it's beautiful, and it's just so nice. The weather is just nice, and it's not too hot, too cold. Even in the hot, when it starts hitting over 100 degrees at night, it's in the high 60s or something. So as long as I can sleep comfortably, I'm good. Now, all the roads and so on here kind of happened organically. We knew what we needed to get access to different places, the way we're doing the drainage, how it's going into the sand pond over there. All right, I'll give you a quick look so you can see what's up. But this has been a slow process. How do you eat an elephant one bite at a time with 18 acres? It's a thing. So that's why we had to have the tractor. There's just no way I was going to do this without the tractor. Now, a lot of the water flows down this way, and it comes in over there, and it comes in over there. Now that brush, there's a lot of the trimmings and stuff that we did, and we have a composter, and then under that blue tarp is a chipper. So we're taking and chipping all this stuff. We take a lot of it out for firewood and stuff like that, but we're chipping and straw, and a lot of our compost and stuff goes over there, and we use that for potting soil and such later. Now, over in the far corner, that is about 10 feet down already. You can't see down to the bottom of it, but that's where I'm starting to take a lot of the soil and processing it. So this is our source material for a bunch of stuff, for the building material, and for doing the check dams and the adobe building for the buildings and all that comes from here, because it's already mixed, the right mix. We've tested it. We've put what's called structured adobe. You add about 10% Portland cement, and it doesn't dissolve. We take sample bricks and we put it underwater in horse troughs, and it's there for a year and a half, and it doesn't dissolve. So, we don't think we know, we know. So this is what we're working from as far as the land goes, and having our material, having the elevation, the topography, the views, the isolation. That was all the minimum job requirement that I wanted. Then you get to the buildings. Now, over there, you'll see that was a 30-foot slab that Donna and I poured using that material. That is just, straight. It doesn't have a bunch of dirt. I'll show you. You can just lift it up and let it flow down. You'll see there's no dirt. It's just washed gravel and sand, and it's awesome. So watch this. Just grab it. It's just sand and gravel. Don't even have to process it. I take this, it's in the right mix, I add Portland cement to it and water, and we put it in to the mixing bucket. Now this mixing bucket also does the adobe when we just take the dirt, that's from the roads and washes and such back there, and nature's already processed it for us. But here, just this dirt has just the right amount of clay in it and so on, that we put it in, you mix it, and there is a trap door underneath that I hit a switch with the tractor, and that just opens and it just dumps it right into those bags. Now the bags we put around a double stacked bucket, just a 5-gallon buckets, and you just dump it right, bring this over the tractor, hit a switch, it dumps it in there. We just 3D print a house. It's amazing. Now a lot of times people that we've gone to different workshops to do this, they do it with scoops and by hand and wheelbarrows, and I'm like, nope, not doing that. Of course, I didn't have a bunch of my kids. If I'd done this one, earlier in our marriage and with a family putting together, we would have been able to do this. It would have been awesome. But so this is the trailer that we use. It's got a water tank in it that we take to a local well here that we've been getting our water. We have one neighbor within 5 miles, and I maintain the roads, and he keeps me from not dying with water. So until our man-made aquifer gets up and running, that's where we're getting our water. So we have several of these tanks and so on, so we're fine. And it only takes a couple hours and fills it up, and we're good. Now this is a dump trailer. It goes up about 45-degree angle, and whatever soil we have or gravel comes out the back, and you just open the bottom there, and it just coats the road. So I was able to do it. Last summer I probably have 150 loads to be able to cover all this in gravel so you don't sink into the dust, the moon dust. Now this is a fuel tank. This is for the diesel for the tractor. Now, a fuel cell, and it's just a pump that we connect to the battery. You have a battery out here, or connect to the battery of the tractor, and we just fill it up. Now, these barrels, the metal barrels, you see one that we're cutting the top and bottoms out of, 2 of them, maybe 3, that we do that, and we put it sideways and you rotate it with a motor, and you cut and plasma out sections, and you put expanded metal in there, and it's a trommel. It separates the soil. I haven't had to do that yet, but I'm going to be needing to, because I'm running out of easy soil. And then of course these poly barrels for various projects. A lot of them are aquaponics. Now we had aquaponics set up that we have over in storage. We haven't brought all our stuff out yet. On the 19th, just a week or two, we're bringing out our big Mayflower moving tractor trailer thing out here, and that has a lot more of our tools and so on. Now our stamp press does, these bed frames, you find these, that steel is the best for building all kinds of stuff. I love that stuff, that angle steel. Now these are 3/4 inch EMTs that you cut to certain lengths, and then the stamp press punches these ends, and that's where a bolt goes through and overlaps at least, from 5 to 6 different struts to create the dome. Now what Don and I did is we did the concrete. This is our first major concrete pour, and it came out great. We did a 30-foot dome. There's a road hone that we're working on. I have over here is the welding area, air compressor and stuff, table for that. Got a workbench. This is where I do a lot of the solar and woodwork and so on. I was working on doing the solar over here, and we have just a lot of tools and everything. And I love being able to just bring everything out to the middle. I'm smelling something electrical, but nothing's on. We're good. Then the expanded metal, this here is going to be what goes in the openings on those barrels as we turn that. That's a mini split. Here's some of the meshes that we have. The stamp press that punches out the ends of these and how these go together. And then we just put a translucent top
50 by 50. That's why it's got, a bunch of the extra there. Now we just ratchet strapped it down to anchors. Now we put in the concrete these anchors and then ratchet strap this that goes over the slab, because this is just temporary. We just want to get it out of the wind and rain for us to be able to do our work. Now this platform is really going to be for community area, rocket stove heated benches around the campfire of the outdoor kitchen barbecue kind of thing. So this is about the center of the property, and the home goes over on the other side of this equipment over there. Now we have, one of the buckets for the tractor, the forklift, the trailer for moving the tractor. Now that trailer, we have we got out of storage because I wanted to get out of storage, but it's a color Ricoh collating freaking super duper copier for doing newsletters and so on, so we'll get that going. The backhoe, this is great for trenching, digging holes, doing excavating for like when we did our septic, that kind of stuff. So that was definitely something I wanted for the tractor. Now I'm going to show you the dome that we're doing here. This is what we're finishing up now. This is originally was going to be just a utility dome that I just needed something to put the batteries and inverters and everything in, and then it became hell. We need to experiment with a lot of the building techniques that we're doing with our main dome. Now I got my start to do some woodwork. I need to make the door frames, the frames that we put up to do the earth bags around. So that's what this wood is. So that's Portland cement there. And then, my coffee got knocked over. And it's empty. Yay. So this is where we're going to be building the frames and so on to put on this. Now, this is a tiny home. I'll show you, another time. You can see how it's going to be the bedroom and a wall that goes down the middle. Bedroom here, kitchen dining area over on this side, and then there's another room that goes over here. Now this is going to be the bathroom. Goes right there. And then this is the utility room. Well, here we're going to have an IBC tote that's halfway buried. That's going to be where the water source is. The diesel generator that we have will go here, and a lot of the plumbing externals and fixtures and connections and electrical and all that will be in here. And then this is where it's going to be enclosed, that will have the batteries and inverters and so on that will go in there. Then this the sink, the stove, the dining area, the refrigerator, the bedroom, that's a queen size bed that goes there, or the window that looks out over that. And the only gasoline that we use is for the ATV, and the compactor, and I think the wood chipper. Everything else is diesel or electric. Now this is the roll that you see for the earth bags, and they come in like 500-meter rolls, and that's the first one that we've had, and all the stuff that we've done is just that one. So we got 9 more of these, and we got a lot of check dams to do and some foundation footers and such. Now this is wrapped in plastic with old chicken wire we repurposed that was out here just to hold that down, and then we're putting another bags on top of this, and this is where we're going to be putting in the frames for the doors, so that we can have a door. Now we're probably going to bring this up about 4 feet and then put the dome on top of that. So that'll give us a second story loft that we can have. We wanted to experiment with that and see what we could do with that. And this is how we're hauling water. The bus is doing great for us. We put the shade cloth on the side. That made a big difference. The sun was, heating us up. And so this is, you see the solar panels over there, and we got, the kind of little kitchen area and stuff. And we don't have to, we're going to put a washer inside the bathroom area without using the dryer, because out here in the desert, I'm telling you, even in the winter, by the time you hang up all your clothes, it's time to take them down. They dry really fast. And my tractor. I like my tractor because I can do a lot with this. If it wasn't for the tractor, there was just no way that we could, get a lot of this stuff done. This back blade is what I carve just about everything with, and then a bunch of attachments that we have, and the auger goes on the back, and then different kind of buckets. So this is what we're doing. This is kind of the how, but the more important reason was the why. Why? Because we need to. Peace.